Let's go ahead and dig into Tennessee's newest commitment. Today's tough question brought to you by Banks & Jones, Tennessee's trial attorney, banksandjones.com. How much value does a three-star prospect bring to the University of Tennessee's 2026 class? First, we'll ask Caleb Calhoun. How are you, sir?
I'm good. How are you doing, Dave?
Never better. A lot to get to on the program. Tell us about Tennessee's newest commitment, Caleb.
Tennessee picked up a commitment from Bergen County, New Jersey. For those who don't know, that's right outside of New York. It's Montvale, New Jersey, to be specific. KJ McClain, a safety who is a three-star across the board out of St. Joseph's High School. He is largely a three-star because of the fact that he's a little slim, only about 165 pounds. That's a concern. And also, while he likes to play tough and physical, his tackling habits are bad. So that's a concern with people. So the question is he physical enough to be able to tackle in certain situations? As far as a coverage guy, though, he's incredible. And there's no debates about that. If you look at his tape, very good at recovering, very good at he's very good at breaking on routes after receivers break down the routes. That's one of his biggest skills because he moves so quickly and he knows how to turn with his hips. So he'd be an ideal Nick Saban defensive back, honestly. And he is very versatile. He plays safety at the high school level, but according to Willie Martinez and people like that, he is being looked at as a guy who can just be a utility defensive back at Tennessee. So there are a lot of big advantages to him coming, even though he's just a three-star. And I think this is partially part of Josh Heupel's way of doing things, where they try to, again, he's missed on a lot of guys, but my understanding with the way Tennessee operates is they try to evaluate talent before anybody else does. And this guy was starting to pick up offers. Michigan State came calling. Penn State came calling. West Virginia came calling. Tennessee was the only school from the South that had come calling to this point. But I think part of the way Tennessee is building their program is to take some of those guys that maybe the SEC hasn't noticed yet that are outside of Southern football country that are really underrated prospects and try to catch on to them before anybody else does. And I think they're trying to do, they think they've done that with KJ McClain here.
All right, let's talk KJ McClain for a second. Let's talk Tennessee football recruiting. Today's tough question. Ultimately, we know that Tennessee will be defined as recruiting. Please hit that like and subscribe button, and we'll go to your comments. What do you think of KJ McClain? But more so, what do you think of Tennessee football recruiting under Josh Heupel? Is it satisfactory, unsatisfactory? I tend to think it's been pretty good, especially considering the mess that Jeremy Pruitt left the Vols in, especially off the field as much as on the field. So let's dive into this. Let's come up with 4 qualifiers. Tennessee football recruiting under Josh Heupel has been great, good, average, not good enough. Along those lines. We'll put it on the YouTube channel. That's our poll question. Today's tough question as well. We broadcast live from the Ted Russell Ford Lincoln Studios. Today's tough question brought to you by Banks & Jones, Tennessee's trial attorney, banksandjones.com.
Today's tough question. Boom. You heard that. Now take it. The Dave Hooker Show with Caleb Calhoun. Represented by T. Scott Jones, banksandjones.com, Tennessee's trial attorney. From the Ted Russell Ford Lincoln Studio, East Tennessee's #1 volume and customer service dealer, Ted Russell Ford and TedRussellLincoln.net. Now to the Dave Hooker Show on Off the Hook Sports.
All right, Caleb, given our 4 choices, where would you put Tennessee football recruiting under Josh Heupel?
I'm going to say good. I'm not going to say great. I think recruiting under Josh Heupel has been good. They've only nailed 1 top 10 class since Josh Heupel's been at Tennessee, and that was after the 2022 season. And the person to make that a top 10 class was Nico Iamaleava, and he's no longer in the program. So I can't say that they've actually ever had a top 10 caliber class under Josh Heupel to this point to make up this roster. But in the age of the transfer portal, and in the age of keeping players around and trying to build chemistry, it's not as crucial to have top 10 classes as it used to be, provided you maintain a certain level of stability and get the right talent to address needs in the transfer portal. And I think Josh Heupel's done that to a much better, much higher degree than a lot of other coaches. And so a lot of the recruiting aspect is getting a guy like KJ McClain, who you think you can develop within your program under a guy like Tim Banks, and then and then he'll stay around, and so you won't have to worry as much about finding more talent and bringing somebody in. I think this is the type of recruiting they want to be able to do at Tennessee. Now we're way out for the 2026 recruiting class, and Tennessee is right now, just so people know, they have a 5-star already committed, but they're number 30 on the 247 Sports composite. But anybody who's followed recruiting, particularly nowadays, you can't rank classes in June. It's just not a thing you can do.
No, and it'll change drastically in the next 6 weeks because July has become a big recruiting month. Tennessee with several big camps planned for the following month. Pseudo Sham says we need some good utility guys that will be good but not great, maybe stick around a few years. Maybe, but given the choices, I'm going to say not good enough. Not good enough if you want a championship, because Tennessee, to compete with the Georgias of the world, the Ohio States of the world, has to recruit at least at a top 5 level. And they haven't done that. As you mentioned, just one top 10 class. I'm sorry, that's not good enough. And if you fast forward to 3 years from now, you're going to see a Tennessee football team that does about the same thing, that flirts with the college football playoff, that maybe gets in it as Tennessee did last year. And last year was a fantastic season. Don't get me wrong. But you got in the college football playoff and you look like you weren't supposed to be there against an Ohio State team that was far more talented. Is that where Tennessee football wants to be in 3 years? Are you okay with that? I don't think so. And Pseudo Sham with a bit of a correction. You need top 5 players. Don't get me wrong. Yeah. I mean, listen, Nico was highly rated, second best in the nation. Tennessee landed him, and I give them credit for that. I'm not going to knock them because Nico left. That was there were a lot of extenuating circumstances in that, Caleb. But I will say this: they landed him. Kudos for that. But you need about 2 or 3 or 4 of those 5-star guys. Tennessee's not getting that. They're not getting 3 or 4 5-star guys. They seem lucky to get one. And you, as Tennessee fans, celebrate. And I appreciate that. And we thought Nico would be a watershed prospect, didn't we, Caleb? We thought
We did.
to more 5-star prospects. But did it really?
Well, again, are you talking about unanimous 5-star prospects though, or can you count 2 or 3 if you get like a prospect who's maybe a 5-star on one service and a 4-star on another, but like a fringe 5-star? Or do you need 3 to 4 unanimous 5-star prospects?
I'm not going to split hairs with you, but I mean, let's take it. Why don't you pull up, if you can, Tennessee's signing class last year,
2025.
Yeah. And then pull up Georgia's signing class last year and count up the number of 5-star prospects that both teams had, and then take it a step further. Count up the number of 4-star prospects that each team had. So today's tough question, and it is pretty simple. It's on our YouTube page, so go ahead and vote now. Tennessee recruiting under Josh Heupel has been great, good, average, not good enough. Nobody has voted for not good enough yet. That's where I am. Am I being too critical? Hit like and subscribe. Get on board now with your comments. David Michael says, nobody looked like they should be in the college football playoff versus Ohio State. Bit of defense for Tennessee. Yeah, if you want to go in that direction, that's fine. But, man, to me, there's a bit of an issue going on in terms of recruiting. And we've already got a comment about Tennessee's broke. Maybe they're broke, but you at some point now, especially that there's a salary cap, and I understand NIL is going to be outside of that, you have to be able to take that a step further. You have to offer something else.
Well,
No, I don't care if it's prep for the NFL or if it's a 5-star hostess. I don't care. You have to do something. It's not good enough, guys. It's just not. Today's tough question brought to you by Banks and Jones, Tennessee's trial attorney. Why Banks and Jones? Well, it's because they're Tennessee's trial attorney. You can play to win with Banks and Jones because they'll go to trial. You've heard of other lawyers. They say they'll go to trial and fight for you. They won't. They just want to settle. That's the easiest way out. Well, that's not Banks and Jones, led by T. Scott Jones. They won't settle. They'll go to trial for you. Tennessee's trial attorney. They play to win. Truly, Tennessee's trial attorney when it comes to criminal defense or personal injury. Why settle? It's Banks and Jones. T. Scott Jones. BanksandJones.com. And I'm starting to hear the same old, same old. Thank you, Travis says, how dare you hit us with facts. I'm hearing this develop players, and Caleb, you even felt you were guilty of that this morning. And listen, developing players, offering players early, that's something that Josh Heupel had to do. The fact that you're going into year number 5 and you're still having to do that is disturbing to me. So tell me, Georgia last year, how many 5-star prospects did they sign in the 2025 class?
Georgia signed 4, Tennessee signed 1. Now, 4 stars, Georgia signed 15, Tennessee signed 14.
Okay, that's comparable. That's a good defense of Josh Heupel. I can roll with that. Pseudo Sham, I'm not rolling with this. We need more guys to make that next jump. We're close to breaking out, but need just a few more players to be top-tier players. No, you need the Cozy Colemans, the Deion Grants, and the Jamal Lewises of the world that are fantastic players when they walk in the door.
All right, there's an issue here, Dave, though, and you're forgetting this because, look, here's the dirty little secret with Tennessee. I think we both agree they're not where we thought they were in NIL. We thought they were going to lap the field in NIL, right? Back in the day, they were going to have the money advantage, and they don't. Now,
supposedly, I look at that in retrospect, and I think it's just because they happen to have a coaching change at about the same time that happened. So there was a sense of optimism. Go ahead.
Okay, so they don't have the NIL advantage. Dave, what you're saying, I'm just going to tell you this up front. If what you're saying is true, Tennessee's always going to be mid-tier because the truth of the matter is it goes back to old school recruiting and talent within the state. And let's just call it what it is. All things being equal, what I mean is Georgia doesn't have Ray Goff as head coach. Tennessee can't touch Georgia in recruiting. Georgia would absolutely lap Tennessee in recruiting every year. There's more talent in Georgia than Tennessee, significantly more. And it's not changing anytime soon. You know, for the next 50 years, Georgia's going to have better high school football talent than Tennessee. And they will have backups. I mean, Georgia is always going to have 2 times as much NFL talent as Tennessee is in high school talent. Tennessee got Cozy Coleman, Deion Grant, and Jamal Lewis because Ray Goff was at Georgia, and Ray Goff stupidly didn't even recruit Jamal Lewis. That's not going to happen.
You went with Jasper Sanks instead. I'll go ahead and tell you though. I think you're making excuses. Bender of Strings says Heupel recruits like he has no urgency. It's one thing to not be active in the portal if you're consistently recruiting top 5, but when you're struggling to crack the top 10, where is the urgency? I think there's some truth to that. I think the Tennessee fans may be settling a little bit. Are you okay with just getting into the college football playoff? I don't think you should be. And listen, Kirby Smart would be a fantastic recruiter if he was at Utah State. Now, he wouldn't have the in-state talent. I get that. But I just have a real question about recruiting and the fact that we're lauding a 3-star prospect out of New Jersey. That doesn't make a lot of sense to me. Derek is absolutely right. The state of Florida can't contain them all. How many prospects did Tennessee sign out of the state of Florida last year? I don't see enough urgency there. I don't see enough attention there. Now, the simple fact is Tennessee in-state is going to be second tier, but you don't have to be second tier in recruiting. And Philip Fulmer proved that. The only reason that Tennessee slipped under Philip Fulmer is he lost his edge a little bit. He won a couple of championships. He played for another one. He thought he had things taken care of. And we've probably all been in that situation where we've gotten a little complacent. Maybe that'll happen to Kirby Smart. I kind of doubt it, but I'm not going to go so far as to agree with Ben. Butch Jones recruiting was 10,000 times better than now. I'm not going to go that far, Ben, but I'm going to tell you this. It feels similar.
Okay, there's a couple of things. One, Fulmer didn't slip. Mark Richt went to Georgia. The minute Georgia gets a competent coach, they're always going to out-recruit Tennessee until perpetuity. Philip Fulmer benefited, Dave. Let's be honest. He benefited from Ray Goff being at Georgia. and from Jim Donnan being at Georgia.
Well, and Brad Scott being at South Carolina or whatever goofball they had there. But no,
I mean, it's not a coincidence that. I'm sorry, it's just not a coincidence that Fulmer's last SEC title was 98. Lou Holtz went to South Carolina in 99. Mark Richt was at Georgia in 2001. 2001 was the last year Fulmer finished in the top 10. That's really not a coincidence to me at all.
There's no question in my mind that Philip Fulmer could go toe-to-toe with Kirby Smart in recruiting. And when I say toe-to-toe, maybe Georgia has the number 1 or 2 class in the nation, and Tennessee has the number 5 class in the nation.
I don't think it's possible without another factor involved, i.e., a coach that everybody wants to play for. Again, my point is Heupel's selling point needs to be the video game numbers. He's got to scout talent that's to a lesser degree, because I don't think it's possible. I'm just going to say this, guys. I think oftentimes there's a bit of an outsized view of Tennessee's ability to recruit. I think Tennessee, if all programs are where they should be, can't go toe-to-toe with Alabama, Georgia, Florida, LSU, Ohio State. Those 5, they can't hang with. And I would say that, when you take that into account, I think that the best way, you got to find something else. Scout talent that's not as highly touted in places that people don't realize. Guys, in the era of integration, Tennessee has one national.
That's like me saying I'm big boned. I'm sorry. I can't go there. I'm not fat. I'm big boned.
No, Tennessee, I'm sorry, but in the era of integration, Tennessee has 1 national title. Clemson has 3. I mean, we got to be honest on this.
Okay. You can't out-recruit Clemson. You can't out-recruit Florida right now.
No, I don't think you can out-recruit Florida.
With the coach they have in detail-oriented Billy Napier,
I think
where was Florida last year in recruiting?
Florida last year in recruiting was, let's see, 247 Sports Composite recruiting rankings.
While you're looking that up, Derek says, I went back and looked at rosters from the 90s to the early 2000s. We had plenty of in-state talent of contributors. California player hits Atlanta, North Carolina, South Carolina, D.C. area, and down the Virginia coast, northern Alabama. Few Florida hits.
Florida was number.
That's a good point by Derek. It's true. Go ahead.
Florida was number 7. They were ahead of Tennessee in recruiting last year. I mean, you
can't beat Florida with Billy Napier.
I've always said this, and I'm going to double down on this. The ability of a coach to recruit is one of the most overrated things we talk about with programs. Programs are half the recruiting battle. Coaches are one half, but programs are the other half. Florida right now is the only SEC school. They're the only Power 2 school. All right, let's back up for a minute, Dave. You agree there's no longer a Power 5 or a Power 4. There's a Power 2, right? It's SEC and Big 10. And then Florida State and the Big 12 and the ACC are like a tier below, right?
Agreed.
Florida's the only Power 2 school in the best recruiting state in the country. I mean, yeah, getting a number 7 class is them underachieving for Billy Napier. Florida should be waking up and getting number 1 recruiting classes every year now, because they should be destroying. I think Florida out-recruits Miami for Miami talent now, if I'm being honest with you. And so with that in mind, yeah, Florida, it's again, Florida, Georgia, LSU, Alabama, Ohio State. When all those programs are where they need to be, Tennessee just can't hang with them in recruiting. They can't. And so Tennessee's in the next tier with like Michigan. And I would say Tennessee's in a tier with like Michigan, Penn State, Auburn, and kind of around that area.
Recruiting sells, right? It's just sales. By the way, Ben says Heupel has time, but our fan base is going to be full and rest in about 2 or 3 years. I'm going to go ahead and tell you, Ben, the next 2 or 3 years are going to be determined in the next 6 weeks in recruiting. And I will say this, recruiting is all about sales. So I was I was in line to get a cup of coffee, and I see the Knoxville News Sentinel. And let me just go ahead and tell you, nobody reads the Knoxville News Sentinel in its hard copy form anymore. They've cut back on circulation. I think it's like $2.50 now. When's the last time you bought a real paper?
I subscribe monthly to all of mine online. Yeah, it's been a long time.
Okay. So I'm thinking to myself, man, a really good salesperson got that ad on the top of the front page for the Knoxville News Sentinel. A really good salesperson did that. And Travis, I'm totally on board with you. He says, this is the year we find out what Heupel is made of. I completely agree. I think that's why he hired Marion Hobby, to show that he had NFL an NFL background that he could prepare you for the NFL. I think that was a very good move. I think he has the college football playoff as a backdrop. And I wonder if the Nico thing is a drag. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. But ultimately, yes, if Tennessee doesn't have a top 5 class this season, I think you've got real cause for concern.
I think they have to find other ways beyond getting a top 5 class out of high school. I don't think it's possible. I mean, Alabama's got a great coach in Kalen DeBoer. Georgia is rolling right now. Florida is Florida, and I don't care if Billy Napier's there or not. It's the same with LSU and Ohio State. Again, unless Georgia or Alabama's down, neither are. I don't think there's a path to a top 5 class for Tennessee. And by the way, that doesn't mean they can't win big. They have to scout talent no one else has. They have to scheme better. That you can overcome that. Tennessee's not. I'm sorry, Tennessee's not a top 5 recruiting program in the nation, and never was.
It was under Philip Fulmer.
No,
heyday.
Georgia was a better recruiting program. They just had dumb coaches. Tennessee can only recruit top 5 consistently if Ray Golf is at Georgia.
All right. New poll question on the YouTube page: is Caleb Calhoun making excuses for Josh Heupel? Ben says it's like building a house with no foundation and then using your amazing building skills to build a house. It doesn't work. Thank you, Ben.
Well, that's the point.
Now, let me give you the answer. You ready for the answer?
Yes.
The transfer portal. Now, that is the one thing that I'll throw out there that Tennessee could excel in. And if they do, it pulls their rear out of the fire in terms of not being an elite recruiting school. Short of that, they better be in the top 5, or you're not getting past the first round of the playoffs, and you're probably not making the playoffs more than a year out of every handful of seasons.
Well, wait a minute. You have to be top 5 to make a playoff of a top 16? Come on. No, to make a playoff, you need to be top 16, probably top 15 in recruiting. I mean,
if you're in the SEC, you better be in the top 5 because you're going to have to go toe-to-toe with Georgia, Alabama, Florida, and LSU.
In a 5+11 model, there will be 7 SEC teams making it year in and year out.
Okay. A serious new poll question. I was giving you a hard time, but let's throw this out there. Are you okay with Tennessee just making the college football playoff, or does it take more?